corporate, all of us need to do, I don't think it's about corporates actually, is that India will also see this whole dignity of labor thing. It is a lot there in the Western countries, but in India, we consider it better to be an engineer from a 10th rate college than to be a top mason, who will earn much more, by the way, than that engineer who may not get a job. Okay, so, people will figure out that it's okay to support their family by taking up part-time jobs, whether in e-commerce setups or retail or wherever. Okay, and it supplements their pocket money and also supports the family. So we will see, I believe, that this whole dignity of labor thing coming to India.
Welcome, ma'am, to the Mitti Ke Rang podcast, and I'm so glad I have you here finally after weeks of waiting and just been talking. I have you here. So today we'll be talking about CSR and a bit of HR.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here too. And I'm particularly charmed by the fact that this was an idea which you were involved in, and really happy to be having a chat with you.
Right. So, ma'am, just to begin the podcast, so I would just like to hop on a bit to the nostalgic feels and know a bit about your childhood and your childhood dreams. We all have childhood dreams that are many times crazy and we don't actually end up pursuing it. So what was that for you?
Okay, so my childhood was not in one place, because my father was with government service, we tended to move around a lot. And at a very basic level, we were moving sometimes after 11 months, 9 months, 2 years. So at one level, there was a desire to be in one place, for a period of time. Can't say that this move around hasn't helped me because it makes you really adaptable, and that worked for me. So childhood dream, I liked what my father was doing, and at that time, I have to tell you, I thought there's a lot of power in government jobs. And so that was an area that interested me from becoming an IAS officer. And some of it was influenced also because of my father. It was his dream that his daughter also joins, the government service through the IAS route. And I sort of played along because I enjoyed the life. We lived in really nice places, green, bungalows. All of it plays a role when you're a child. And I think that's where I was, in all honesty, as a child. But we dabble around, I think, we get influenced by a lot of other things as we go along, and I too got influenced and somewhere moved very differently.
Right. So, how would you say moving around and adapting to different circumstances, situations have helped you combat the struggles that we all face now? How has that shaped you as an individual?
I think it's about survival of the adaptable, if I may say, or somebody who can, it's not about the fittest, it's about the adaptable quite often. And, you learn to engage in different contexts, okay? The people that you meet are different. The relationships that you have to build have to start all over again because there are new people that you're engaging with. The expectations that they have may differ. The challenges are different. And I think you are still the same, by the way. Okay, so this kind of a move and thing helps you sort of strengthen this ability with yourself. Of course, the big advantage is that you build fair amount of friendships and relationships as you go along. You acquire an understanding of different contexts and geographies. As a child, you don't think about it too much. It's only when you're much older, or it sort of becomes ingrained. It's like driving, I suppose. Initially, you're making the effort, you're looking around, you're looking into this mirror, that mirror, but thereafter, it's almost you don't think about it. It's automatic, and that is what happens because all these experiences, the relationships that you build, the learnings that you acquire sort of become ingrained, and you don't think too much about it when you're using it in your day-to-day life as you go along. So I would say it is a benefit. It has helped me, even in my organization, whilst I've stayed with one organization, to move around across different locations, in different businesses and different assignments, and be able to adapt fairly well.
So while we're in school, we have all this beautiful notion of the world, how things will flow smooth. But once when we're in college, we get to see what the actual world looks like, and then there comes a point we have to choose a career path, what we want to do in life, what is now I want ahead of college. So what was that for you? What after college did you decide for yourself? This is what I'm interested in, or this is what I'll do.
I think I went through many false starts. Okay. So every child in school, I mean, mostly because of society and all, wants to be in science, because that was considered, a lot of them. Now, of course, commerce and others are there. But in my days, it was science, where you needed to be. So I also did that, moved to, and then, of course, people think of engineering and medical. And I also sort of got pushed into it. You'll be surprised to know that my father sent me to Delhi to undergo a full 1-month course so I could appear for medical exam because I thought that was something I would do. And the last day, just before the exam, I realized I was really scared of just seeing blood also. And, how was this whole medical thing going to work out? So I did not appear for the exam. I mean, my father invested a huge amount of money, but I did not appear for the exam. So I came back, and at that time, I think there was a good learning to say it's good to be a really, really good or excel in one thing, even though it may not be the most sought after area, vis-a-vis being a mediocre person in something which is sought after. I think to me that was a great learning. And I switched from science to move to arts, and in that stage, thereafter, things worked out. And whilst I thought IAS still, but it's serendipity. There was a lecture from somebody from TIS. I really enjoyed it. I decided that why not give it a shot for management, and actually made it to TIS. So some of it is serendipity, from IAS thinking to attempting medical to reaching here. And I think these are all learning experiences, and everybody goes through it in some form or the other.
Right.
So my choice was made with the help of friends, if I may say so. In college, we are very influenced by our peers and friends and people that we engage with, or not so much parents at that time. These people make a lot of difference, and that's what happened.
Right. So, like career transition for you personally. So, was it difficult? Was it fun? And what sorts of thoughts were you having in mind?
Career transition as in joining an organization,
Joining
or
an organization and then being in HR and then switching to CSR.
I had absolutely the most delightful time in my early years with IDC. Um, I think it's a company which did not visit campuses. It was a campus recruitment. It came after a couple of years. Uh, there is a personality which a company portrays on a campus, or because in those days we didn't have so much of media and news and all of it. And I think that personality was very appealing, and there was a match of some kind to say, okay, this is a company I want to work for. And uh, I, uh, I personally believe that what happens in your foundational years, in an organization, in a college, in a relationship, anything that you want to talk about is extremely valuable and important and lays the base for the future. And that is where I think the organization that I joined made a huge difference. And I, I think uh, it's not just focus on organizational systems or processes and all, but also keeping the individual in mind and helping them develop to their full potential, which I experienced as a youngster in the organization, engaging with some wonderful people who were more than just managers or senior people. I think they took personal interest, and those kind of things help you socialize and get embedded in an organization more deeply.
Right.
Uh, uh, Added to that, of course, is if the work is exciting and you're enjoying it, if the team that you are working with is interesting. So all of these made a sort of impact. And since one got an opportunity to get into, try out newer areas, whether newer businesses or this, you were engaged, you know. One was engaged as an employee and a contributor. Uh, but after over 2 decades of doing that, I think uh, the call was, do you do more of the same thing? Uh, or do you try out something else? And my view is that uh, this is, you know, some people are rolling stones right from the beginning, but a lot of us come to a crossroads sometime in our life, you know. And normally I find most people in my experience reach a crossroad in their 40s somewhere, you know, to say that, is this the path that I want to continue on? Or is there something different that I would like to do? And I realized that I would like to do something different. And the organization has tremendous and very large scale and effective work in CSR. And pardon me, and I pitched for that. It took some time, and but I got an opportunity after much perseverance and push. So that's how this change happened, and I have never regretted it.
Right. So, though you are now into CSR, but there's a question I really want to ask which concerns HR. So now that everyone's at home, we are working from home. So it has sort of become tough to build that relationship which we could build at workspaces. So how do you think the future of HR will evolve, and what are the new techniques that someone could use and or could come really handy in building relationships or through screen?
Hmm. I'm wondering about. So you're very right. I think things have changed dramatically, unexpectedly, and we've not had time to adapt. It has happened so quickly, this mass work from home, not being able to meet people. Uh, there are two kinds of people here that we are talking. So one is people who were already in an organization. Okay, so they already had some relationships. You know, with internal stakeholders like other employees and colleagues, and also external stakeholders, whether vendors, suppliers, clients, etc. There, both parties are on the same boat. It is a bit easier to adapt, provided the technology aspects and the communication infrastructure and the policies and practices are in place or are put in place, you know, keeping this. But the challenges for those who were not in this setup and have moved in, let's say in the last 3-4 months. And there are a lot of people, there are a lot of young people, management graduates, students, etc., who are into their first job sometime right now, maybe, through this work from home and pandemic situation, without the opportunity to build, you know, and they don't know anybody other than through Zoom calls or so the challenge is very different for this lot. So I don't think there are any easy answers. The first one is easier. to say that more effort, etc. I'm personally not a believer to say that every day you must have a team meeting or every day you must do this, because that builds relationships. It does not. Okay. Uh, uh, because we never called our teams every day, even when we were in office. So keep it as natural and normal as you can, is my view. The second thing is that appreciate the fact that this is not that one day in a week or one day in a month work from home. This is all the time. And for a large part of this time, people did not have support at home. See, we are Indians. We have help at home. And suddenly that was gone, and the family members pitch in. So this appreciation is something that organizations need to have, that the normal 9 to 6 or 9 to 9 in some cases may not work now, because people have other, not just work from home, but work at home. The third thing that, again, there is appreciation which is needed, is that space and infrastructure is a constraint, especially if you look at places like Mumbai, where there are much smaller apartments and families are staying, unlike, let's say, Delhi or other places. And children are also on online. The spouse may be on online. Space is restricted. This appreciation and understanding and management is something which is very, very critical, because if this is not sorted out, then long-term work from home or hybrid work from home will become a challenge as we go ahead. The fourth thing is to manage the boundaries. Therefore, organizations and individuals together need to set boundaries, to say that just because I'm at home, even during work and other things, doesn't mean that work extends into your weekends or long. And these are boundaries, and there has to be discussions around it. Some organizations have taken a lot of proactive action, but much more is needed. We three of us, my two other partners and I, we just recently did a study on employee experiences during this work from home. Unusual work from home during the pandemic. And there are really strong differentials which are emerging, basis your living arrangements, basis gender, of course, basis your age group, and functions. And this information has to be sliced and diced, and targeted interventions taken by organizations. Because what is working for sales and marketing or not working for them may be working for another function, or those who are more senior in the organization are experiencing it slightly differently and with much less challenge compared to those who are younger. Okay, so these differences a good organization will look at. For those who joined during the pandemic, it's a very different ballgame. There are no easy answers because they don't know.
Right. This question popped up in my head while I was talking to my brother who has just started working, and when he said that I haven't met my team, and we just through on
phone or Zoom.
Yeah. So that's what made me think how the relationships and the HR has changed in this few months, not even years or say.
It has impacted.
Right.
It has, Nishika. People are struggling, not with family relationships. They have improved quite often. There's more more pitching in from other family members, etc. at work, which quite often did not happen earlier. But at work, we miss that informal bonding. We miss that, chatting. We miss not looking at the computer all the time and having a meeting face to face. And these are things that are challenging. I think the future generation, the younger ones who are sort of glued onto their phone or laptops may find it much easier. The others who did not grow up like that may struggle a lot more. Yeah.
So in times like these, what makes a great leader? Like what qualities does a great leader should have, and how does a leader tackle the conflicting views of the team members?
I think they're two different questions. Um, I think nothing changes in terms of what makes a great leader. Because great leadership is about leadership which can adapt to a situation and context. So if there was somebody who displayed these qualities of being empathetic, of being visionary, of somebody who understands uh, requirements, my view is that person will be able to handle it exactly in the same way, even in this time. Because it is a trait, it is something which is there. Okay. Other things are processes, what I mentioned earlier. There are processes, systems, whatever. That, of course, has to adapt to this new thing. But these traits of human beings and leaders is about contextualizing, adapting, but the inherent traits don't change. So a good leader will display uh, that ability irrespective of the times, whether it is a war zone versus, peace, or whether it's a pandemic situation or otherwise. That ability is something inherent. So I don't see that as a difference, really. But maybe more empathy is needed, maybe a deeper insighting into this newer area. And challenges and positives associated. I think there are a lot of positives. We can talk about negatives, but leaders understand that there are positives. You can hold a meeting very quickly and get hundreds of people to come together to share their views, which earlier was not so easy, or we were not. I don't think that there's good leaders adapt to situations and will just enhance some of the things that they were doing earlier, whether it's empathy or deeper insighting, and reduce some of the things which they took for granted maybe earlier. So it's I don't see that as a very different.
So,
Conflict.
mhm.
Did you want me to answer
Ma'am,
something on
how does a leader
uh,
tackle the conflicting views of the team members within a group?
see there? Again, it depends on what you're discussing. What is the issue? When there are two people, or normally more in a team, conflicts are bound to arise, and some of it are healthy. Healthy conflict, healthy disagreement, not conflict so much, is a good thing. Um, one, I mean, there are many different ways, but one of the things is to keep the overall goal on the radar. Okay, so it is not about your view is different from my view or the third person's view, but at the end of it all, what is that view about? What are we aiming to achieve as a team? Okay, and whatever that goal is, or whatever that discussion, the end objective that we are driving, whichever one is the one which is most effective and relevant for that, is the one which a good leader would try and reach, by explaining this context. See, one is to do a 9-1, to say it's my way or highway, and you can take that call. Sometimes leaders have to take that call to say that I've heard all your different views, but this is what we are going to do. And that is fine, because that situation demands it. Sometimes it may be to say, listen, let us debate and discuss which one of these meets the requirement that we are pitching. Okay. If it is personal conflict between team members, and it happens sometimes, we're all humans. My personal view is that people should try and resolve it themselves first. And I would always encourage them to have a chat over a cup of coffee or tea and spend some time, and each one's views taken on board, and they can try and resolve it. Thereafter, the mediation processes. If they can't, then it comes up. But a third party resolving a personal conflict is never very effective. Set expectations. Okay. So right in the beginning, to say that I want a function or a team where finally the team will prevail. I do not wish to have very strong personalities but dysfunctional. They may be great performers, but if they are dysfunctional to that team and to the larger outcome, then it's not such a great idea. Okay, so personally, expectation setting about how you would like the team to operate and is something which is, again, what I think managers and leaders do or need to do.
Right. So that was about HR, and now I'll just quickly hop on to CSR, and I'll put out the questions that I had in mind since long. So the first question to you would be, how expensive is CSR to run and to be successful and to really impact lives?
See, it's not about expense. You can spend you can spend 10 rupees and make a difference to somebody. Okay.
Right.
And lakhs of rupees and crores of rupees may not be able to resolve a particular large issue. Okay. So first of all, that part should be very, very clear. Thereafter, like any other business or a function, uh, like whether it's marketing or technical or HR, we want to know how well are we spending our money, isn't it? That for every rupee that you're spending, what is the return that you're getting? Are you making that rupee stretch longer and get you more? All these things we discuss in business. And the same thing happens here, that if I have a 100 rupee budget for CSR, then what can I do in this which will be impactful, okay, or large? And what are the resources that I can leverage to make my 100 rupees go a longer distance? So today, I mean, we are in a situation where there are many, many, many schemes which are available from the government itself. So you may have 100 rupees, but the government may have 1,000 rupees available. It's a question of tapping into it and collaborating and making it 1,100 rupees maybe. Okay. It is about, we also believe, and I believe, and our organization believes that anything which is given free is not valued. Okay. So people value where they have skin in the game,
Right.
where you have contributed or you're involved. So anybody, whether it's a farmer or women or barring children, they don't earn. So what can be done for them also to contribute a little bit? So if somebody puts in even 1 rupee and 10 of them are putting in 10 rupees, and besides 100 rupees that you have another 10 rupees. Okay. So it is about strategizing and thinking. And thereafter, so this is from a sustainability, financial part and whatever. But to do a good job, still, it's not only about money. It is having a great strategy in place to say, exactly like we do in technical marketing, whatever functions, to say, what is the outcome that we want? What is that goal that we are working towards? And ensuring that the actions that you are taking, and that's again strategic, because you maybe take 100 things to reach that particular goal, but what are those 1 or 2 which will get you the maximum impact? How will you monitor and track all of it? So if you look at it like that, then doesn't matter what amount of money you have. It's about what is the best utilization of that. How many lives are you impacting? What is the outcome that you're achieving? Is it sustainable? Okay. Have you leveraged all the potential resources which may not be within your control, but are in the external states? So taking all of it into account, that money can go a longer distance than just handing it over like a check to somebody for.
So, ma'am, in terms of making impact and changing lives, how do you measure and articulate the progress? Like, how do you know when does a CSR project um, when is a CSR project successful or it needs more work? How do you articulate that?
See, first is that one needs to be clear on the outcomes. Okay. So suppose we look and thereafter you can put milestones. So suppose the outcome is open defecation free catchment in the sanitation project. Suppose the outcome is to have open defecation free catchment. Then if you're working in 100 intervention is, what is the outcome that you wish to achieve? And I'll take an example to say that, let's say it is open defecation-free catchments, which was our government's agenda also. And let's say a company is working in sanitation and you choose this. So if you're working in 100 villages, you will achieve this if all those villages become open defecation-free.
Right.
Okay. Now you can set a time frame to say, I have X amount of budget. It'll take me, let's say a year to reach this or 2 years to reach it. So every year you must ensure that X number of toilets or access is provided to people about those toilets. Okay, so that is one aspect, and till it covers all the villages. The second aspect is, you've said open defecation free. You've not said provide toilets.
Right.
Okay, so just having toilets doesn't mean that people are not going to the farms or going outside to shit and piss. Okay, they still need, there is a behavior change which is needed. So there's another aspect to say that, have you created adequate awareness for these people, and can you track? You must have a baseline to say, when you began the project, what was the situation? Maybe 80% of the villages were not open defecation free. X number of adults were not using toilets, etc. So you have your baseline. And then you start tracking the same metrics to say, X number of toilets, how many people, adults, male, female, adolescents, children, how many are using? Is there anybody at all who's defecating in the open? Can we do something in the schools so that right from foundational years, children understand, about this issue? So you track these parameters and put a reporting mechanism in place, either directly or through your partners or third-party agencies. And then you know that you're moving. It's exactly like what we would do in any other function.
Right. So how do you reconcile CSR over what has been happening, say, be it the COVID-19 pandemic, or be it Black Lives Matter, or even what happened with Jaya and Phoenix in the South? How do the events change the face of CSR, basically?
COVID certainly has, at least in the short term. So if I take COVID first, okay, it's a disaster.
Right.
If we were to look at it, this pandemic is a disaster. The difference is that this disaster is not limited geographically, right? Unlike a tsunami, or unlike a flood or a drought, or something, it is just mass. It is across geographies, across countries, across. Question first, and it is COVID is a disaster, and it's not limited to any geography. Unlike a tsunami or a flood situation or a drought situation, all countries, people, everybody is affected. So it has definitely impacted CSR, because large amount of funds have got diverted to dealing with this immediate issue. And people have done many things, whether it is giving food items, money, personal protective equipment, volunteering their service, many things have happened. It has, by diverting all this money, it has impacted some of ongoing projects for companies. Okay, because funds are limited. It had to get diverted, and it came here. But that is in the short term. I think the important thing for organizations, governments, CSR organizations, is to look at the long term, to say short-term relief is one, but what happens to livelihoods, which have perhaps got impacted, with a lot of labor returning back to the villages, migrant labor. I'm not so keen to go back either. So the ecosystem itself is changing. Okay, so what are we going to do about it? Is there something that needs to be done from a long-term behavior change perspective? This has changed behaviors, but if we wish to sustain from health and hygiene and etc. perspective, then what are those actions? These are much more long-term. The good bit is that many CSR activities have also realigned, just like corporates, other actions have realigned, to move to the digital media, or other ways of delivering your services and providing support. And this is not going to vanish. So now you have the options. In case of a disaster, you know that you're ready with this digital online option vis-a-vis the face-to-face, which we were all much more used to. But the long-term things of livelihoods, of pressure on in a particular geography, whether it is urban poor or whether it is people who have migrated to back to their or gone back, migrants who've gone back to the villages, and the need to create you know um, livelihood opportunities for them in that same area in an ecosystem approach. All those which CSR will have to grapple with and think about as we go ahead. You know, so that is one aspect. The, uh, the and along with the government, along with other civil society. If we look at Black Lives Matter, so it is an issue of marginalized communities, minorities, marginalized, and today, U.S. Ability for things to go viral, all of it has led to this kind of outcome. But this happens, isn't it, in societies? So whether it happens with the Dalits, whether it happens with sometimes women, uh, so minorities and marginalized communities uh, have faced, quite often discrimination and challenges over last decades, I would say. It's not a small thing. So this was an event, okay, which highlighted the issue and brought it again into the mindset of people. But it is a much deeper issue. So it is about saying that what do we do to start becoming more inclusive, not just for Black people, but also for any other minority or marginalized community. And it can happen right from schools to for youth and jobs. And in some cases, uh, it will mean formal action, like an affirmative action, which needs to be taken to say that till things are on a level playing field. So to me, that is more an event which happened, but the root cause is very different. You have to go to the root cause and say that, are we really not discriminating right from what is the messaging, what is the behavior change that we need? What is the policy change that we need uh, uh, for actions? What are the reactions? Do we close our eyes when we are children, or what when we see something like this happening, or do we have an opinion and a view, and do we? So it's a much larger issue, but this was just an event in mind.
Right. So, ma'am, talking about COVID-19, it has also unleashed this concept of the urban poor. And so, how do you see CSR contributing and helping it? And what is the role of CSR in combating the problem?
I'm not sure what says. So you must understand, CSR funds are very limited, right? Okay, and they are being stretched in multiple dimensions, multiple areas. So whether it is natural resource related issues, whether it is women, whether it is this urban poor now, uh, water, agriculture, everywhere. So how much can be done? Equally, a lot of urban poor is people who have migrated from villages in search of work. That's one category. Okay, and we see it in slums, which are there in a lot of large metros, and they have been there. In fact, some of it would have got declined now because they would have gone back to the villages. But there's another category which has got created, not necessarily poor, but highly impacted, because a lot of people have lost their jobs, or seen cuts and so on, and therefore have shifted or fallen off from their maybe lower middle class to a little more into poverty. Now, if organizations are not economically able to manage their own business or growth, or not generating profits, they have taken that call to downsize, maybe, isn't it? So till they become profitable back again, till the economy moves up again into a growth path, this is not an easy one to be dealt with by corporates. But moment the economy starts moving up, corporates start seeing sales happening, revenues increasing, then they will again look for people, and the same people will start getting jobs all over. Our government has also focused on Atmanirbhar Bharat, right? Government has talked about it. There's a lot of push for entrepreneurship, gig economies. These are coming up in a big way, and people are now, more comfortable. Not just the people, but even organizations are more comfortable with deploying gig workers, or looking at engaging with entrepreneurs. There are incubators which are happening. So there is another sort of avenue which it was already there, but it will expand multifold, and we are seeing that happening. And to change the way work happens, more people through gig, more people through part-time, more people. The third thing that I think corporates, all of us need to do, I don't think it's about corporates actually, is that India will also see this whole dignity of labor thing. It is a lot there in the Western countries, but in India, we consider it better to be an engineer from a 10th rate college than to be a top mason, who will earn much more, by the way, than that engineer who may not get a job. Okay, so, people will figure out that it's okay to support their family by taking up part-time jobs, whether in e-commerce setups or retail or wherever, okay? And it supplements their pocket money and also supports the family. So we will see, I believe, that this whole dignity of labor thing coming to India, and much more respect for all kinds of jobs. And that itself will lead to increase and reduction in urban pay. Because today, if you're educated or this, you don't want to do certain kind of jobs unless you're absolutely. But that will start changing, and people will figure it out. So because I don't think it is about a corporate being able to deal with urban poor. It is each one of us. It is the government. It is corporates also. All of us.
Right. So, ma'am, thank you for giving us such a beautiful insights on CSR and your beautiful perspectives on every topic. So, the last two questions that I would like to ask you before wrapping up the podcast is what is the best piece of advice you've ever received, be it in personal or professional life, that you would like to share with us today?
Mm. Okay. So one was pretty early on in my career. Actually, both are from a career, this thing. But when I was just a trainee in my first assignment, I remember taking some problem to a senior manager there. And the first, uh, I had maybe 4 or 5 months of work experience, that's all. And he turned around and said that every problem that you bring to me should be accompanied by a solution. Okay. And somewhere it has stuck in my mind. I can't say that I've been able to practice it all the time, but it is in my mind to say that if every problem has a solution, and if I'm expecting somebody else to resolve it, before I take my problem to somebody else, can I at least think through what might be one or two options? And it's a good thing, because when you go to somebody with options, quite likely one of the options that you recommend may go through. And that also helps in your sort of credibility and all of it. So to me, every solution, every problem must be accompanied by a solution was definitely one of them. The second one was maybe 5-6 years thereafter. And again, it was actually my supervisor who told me this, my manager. And in a particular context, but it stuck with me, is that if you don't believe in yourself, nobody else will. Okay. So this was in my context. It may not apply to everybody else, but it applied to me a lot. And I have valued that a lot, to say that, I must believe, because otherwise, if you don't believe in yourself, it is reflected and you project it, and others also will not believe you. They see that you are not confident about what you're saying. You don't believe in what you're saying. You won't do this. So why should? So believe in. I mean, this was another. If you don't believe in yourself, nobody else will. So these two have stuck with me. There were many over the years, but these two somehow. Uh, uh, I've been lucky with mentors.
So, what would be your message to all the millennials or the Generation Z who are still figuring out what to do ahead of this pandemic, how to proceed, and what to look forward to?
See, this will pass. Okay. And if you're a marathon runner, 100 meters, how fast you went, or 200 meters is not very relevant. Okay. It is your ability to hold on for the long stretch, your stamina and so on and so on, right? So you have to decide what you want to be. Everybody is not a marathon runner. Some people are much better at sprinting, and that's good too. So I don't know. It's to me, it's not about the pandemic. To me, that is just a short-term thing, and it will get resolved. And you'll make a derail for a year or so, but it's okay. In a life which may be 80 years, 1 or 2 years is okay. It doesn't seem like it at your age, but I can tell you, it's okay. So, a couple of things which I believe over the years that I think have helped me, and I'd like to just touch upon. So first thing that I would like to say is that your foundational years matter, okay? So whether you are in education, whether you are in a relationship, whether you are at work, the first few years are going to determine a lot of what happens. I'm not saying that thereafter nothing will happen, but they make a difference. So in these years, it's good to roll up your sleeves, dirty your hands, get down to the details, understand, engage with a lot of people. See, these are days where internet provides us easy access to everything. So it's very easy to cut, copy, paste, but you must imbibe it, internalize it. This is a time to identify and engage with people you respect and role models. Okay, and role models are not always the senior most people. They may come to you in many, many different forms. So find them, okay, and engage. So I think the foundational years, learn as much as you can, have a spirit of inquiry, and ask and engage. It'll hold you in great, try and get diverse experiences within the same thing. I don't mean job hopping, but you can get it in the same, provided you show that. And even if your organization doesn't permit it, doesn't prevent you from that. So foundational, yes. To me, that's the first thing. The second thing that I would say is invest in yourself, okay? And this is, of course, even more important now during this pandemic. But everybody must have options available to them which help in their physical, mental, emotional health outside of work. Okay, you must have deep interests. You must have something which can give you a balance during tough times, and not make you a very unidimensional kind of a person, but be a multidimensional personality. Have those interests. The third thing is invest in building strong, positive relationships. And I differentiate this from networking, okay? Networking to me is very transactional, okay? I need something, so it's good to know an influential person. That's a very different thing. But when you're young, okay, building relationships is like something where you're crediting and building a credit in a bank account, okay? And that will hold you in good stead. And it doesn't mean being goody-goody, being nice all the time, no. Relationships are built when you are responsive, when you meet your commitments, when you're authentic, Okay, when you mean what you say, and say what you mean. So there are many ways in which these relationships are built, and those which are built on in your early years will hold you in great stead over time. And I am still again saying it's not about networking. Okay, so networking is with a larger number for a transactional fee. This is not going to be that many numbers, but it is something which I think people should always have on the radar. Uh, it's about, so if you ask me, these are the three things which stand out. Over and above that, it's simple things like simplify your work, your life. Don't get into complex this thing. Uh, Balance out, okay, um, your desire to progress versus balancing out family, maybe physical fitness with the kind of time you're putting in for work, etc. Balance is very, and balance in your in the way you react to things. So balance. And the third thing would be last, in everything, try and see what difference you can make. That's, I mean, really what I would.
So thank you so much, ma'am, for the beautiful conversation and sharing your thoughts and perspectives so beautifully. And I'm sure this would definitely make an impact on the listeners. And thank you for being
Thank you
here.
for listening.
Thank you, ma'am.